Okay, Integrated Math 2. We're taking a look at the homework that you're going to have to do for today. And it's just like yesterday, so if you can't remember a lot of yesterday's, a lot of the homework and how to do it, look at yesterday's video, which is posted. Remember, we're going to use the formula x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. This is the quadratic formula. You already have notes on it, or RJ can take notes on it too. This is if you're given an equation where you have ax squared plus bx plus c. Remember, the very first thing is it has to be equal to 0 in order to get the a, b, and c. Okay, so let's look at one of the problems from the back page, because your homework is going to be 9 through 18. So let's look at we're going to do, just to get us remembering, we're going to do number 11 and number 12. Okay, so here's 11 first. We were given in 11, 2k squared plus 9k equals negative 7. The very first thing we want to do is make sure that it's equal to 0. So I'm going to move this 7 over to the other side by adding 7 to both sides. So I get 2k squared plus 9k plus 7 equals 0. So now I know my a value is 2, my b value is a positive 9 because this is a positive, and my c value is 7. So now I'm going to plug and chug into my formula. Remember, x equals negative b, so x equals the negative of whatever my b is. So negative 9, the opposite of, plus or minus the square root of 9 squared minus 4 times my a times my c. Oops, all over 2 times my a. We need to square this first and then multiply this stuff, remembering that there's this negative that goes with the 4, and then we have to check and make sure, is this going to be positive or negative? Okay, so I get x equals negative 9 plus or minus the square root. So I'm going to square this first. 9 times 9 is 81, minus, because one negative makes this whole thing negative. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 7 is 56, all over 4. Excuse me. So now I need to do what's underneath the square root first. So I have negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 81 minus 56. Well, I have 11 minus 6 is 5. 7 minus 5 is 2 over 4. Now I can simplify this. 25 is a perfect square, so I'm going to go ahead and simplify it. I get negative 9 plus or minus, and because I took the square root of it already, it comes out from underneath the square root, all over 4. So now I have two problems really right here. A negative 9 plus 5 over 4 and a negative 9 minus 5 all over 4. Okay, so this negative 9 plus 5 gives me a negative 4 divided by 4, and that leaves me with a negative 1. And this one, negative 9 minus 5, is negative 14 divided by 4, so negative 7 halves. Those are my two answers, negative 1 and negative 7 halves. Okay, pause the video if I went way too fast and write it down. That was number 11. Remember, you can pause the video. Let's look at number 12 because it's interesting. I'm going to do this problem actually in two ways. Okay, the first one is using our quadratic formula. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I need to get everything over to one side. So I'm going to subtract 80. Now, if you notice, there's only two terms. There's a bunch of things that we could do. We could have factored this. We can use the square root method, but the directions said quadratic formula. So from here, I'm going to figure out what my a is. A is the number with my whatever squared, so a equals 5. If you notice, there isn't any r to the first power, so my b value is 0. And my c value is negative 80, because you have to take that sign with it. Okay, so now I'm going to use the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so my b is 0, so negative 0 is still just 0, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 0 squared is still 0, minus 4 times my a, which is 5, times my c, which is a negative 80, all over 2 times 5. Okay. So 0 plus or minus. Now I don't have to write that 0 down. A negative times a negative is a positive. So this is 0 plus 20 times 80. Well, 2 times 8 is 16 plus the 2 zeros all over 10. So I have plus or minus, because I don't have to put that 0 anymore, the square root of 1600, because 0 plus 1600 is 1600 all over 10. This is a perfect square, so I can go ahead and simplify square root of 1600, which is just 40, plus or minus 40 all over 10. So I have two problems right here. I have positive 40 over 10 and a negative 40 over 10. So my answer is x equals 4 and negative 4, or plus or minus 4 if you wanted to write that. Now, that is not the fastest way to solve for this problem. It is just a way. Now, if you remember from all of our other homework from last week, we could have done this a different way. So I'm going to show you this the other way. Well, you've done it before too. So what you should have noticed is the fact that there was only one r. So I'm going to get rid of this 5 and divide both sides by 5. I get r squared is equal to 5 goes into 8 once, with the remainder of 3. 5 goes into 30 6 times. So then now, how do I get rid of the r squared? Take the square root of both sides. Because I put the square root in, it's plus or minus 4. So it's best to say, okay, what method do I know? And now we know 3 methods. What is the fastest way? So I could have done all of this, which is what the homework asked me to do, or I could have done just the square root method. I could even factor. So here's one more method. 5r squared is equal to 80. I'm going to bring the 80 over. 5r squared minus 80 equals 0. I'm going to factor out a 5. R squared minus 16 equals 0. The 5 cancels out. I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And I get r squared minus 16 equals 0. This is a difference of squares, so I can factor it. R minus 4, R plus 4. So R will equal plus or minus 4. So now we have 3 methods doing it all. One problem doing 3 methods each one. And you get to decide which one you feel most comfortable about. But for today's homework, you have to do the purple one because that's what the directions asked of you. All right, that's it. Good luck. Do your homework 9 through 18.